few minutes ago, and that just points to how we have been failed by the government in terms of the economy, ensuring that we are just having the basic of things. But a bigger story that has been making headlines is still on the papers: coronavirus, something that we talked about on Morning Express extensively for a whole hour yesterday with officials from the Chinese government, and now we're being told that there is a call to bring back our starving children from China. Families are begging, and obviously, like I said, I think on this show a few days ago, it's not just about the virus itself, it's about them not being able to live and do their normal things as usual. So they're not living the normal lives that they were living, and they're not chasing the dreams they had gone abroad to chase. The story is still on the Daily Nation. We're told it's despair for those with kin in China. Same call for people to be brought back home and be quarantined here near their families.
I think we go back to the thing that people would rather be sick at home. But, here we are then dealing with one edict that has been given by the Chinese government, whereby they said nobody's moving, whether you're Chinese or not. Nobody's getting out of these particular areas. And we heard that the ambassador, the Kenyan ambassador to China, Sarah Sarem, say the other day that, her hands are tied. There's really nothing that they can do. In terms of diplomatic relations, she's brokered as much as far as she can, but she can't get anybody out.
No, other citizens of other countries are leaving China. I think the issue is when they leave wherever it is they've been sequestered, do they move directly to a plane that takes them home, or?
And who is responsible for that transition?
Yes.
Yeah, because a fear would be you go from China to Addis to Kenya.
Yes.
And so there is a lot of interaction in between these nations, and the big fear is spreading the virus as you're traveling across the globe.
And that's why they're actually chartering planes, meaning that plane isn't going anywhere,
but
directly to the destination.
Yeah. Yes. So are we the ones failing to facilitate it, or are they stopping us from taking our people?
No, it's abundantly clear we're not doing what we're supposed to do. If these other countries are able to ferry their people back home, have you heard the government of Kenya telling you of the plan they have? Have you? No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there was a question. One of my guests, I think a few weeks ago, suggested that we are afraid of doing things that will offend our allies and our friends.
Offend them how?
We're talking about
because of all our trade deals and all.
But offend how exactly?
Yeah, by removing our people from the nation.
But how does that become offensive? Everyone who is Kenyan, who is in China, from what we've been told, have been tested and they've been found negative.
Negative, yeah.
So
and there's a quarantine period of 14 days that you put aside.
They're long surpassed that period.
Yeah.
And none of them has exhibited anything that's close. Yes. Why not just bring them home and quarantine them further? Remember, we were told categorically that KNH have actually provided such a space.
Yes.
Then why don't you bring them and take them to that space?
Exactly.
If that space actually exists.
Yeah. And the Chinese officials that I was talking to yesterday did indicate that they are willing to help in the facilitation to ensure that when people come back, whether they're Kenyan or Chinese, whatever nationality, they're put aside, taken care of, watched for that period of time, and just make sure that the problem is that they're not sick. So they can make, and now we have kits to test and to ensure. The WHO has been very instrumental in making sure that we have the capacity to deal with this problem. So somebody is not doing what they need to do to help these families.
The negotiations are not as in-depth as they need to be, perhaps, or, do
we just not care?
This is the thing. That's the question that then must be asked. Do we care enough to do something, to go as far as necessary to get people out? Because people are genuinely concerned about their loved ones, those in a position whereby they're not allowed to go out, obviously because of the seriousness of this disease, the dangers that are posed. People are not able to leave, so you'd rather come home. And like we said, other nationalities have moved their people without question. So why can't then this happen?
Yeah.
Look, this one doesn't even require profound thinking.
Deeply.
No, it doesn't. We have students, we have citizens of Kenya who are in China.
Business people.
Yes, they are in the same position as many other people who visit China for business purposes or for whatever purposes, okay? We have seen countries who have evacuated their people. We know of countries who haven't.
Yeah.
Now, we have not heard anything from our government that indicates that they have a plan to evacuate. Let's start there.
Yes.
So the issue of refusal and refusal doesn't even come into discussion. If we knew of a plan and were told this is what they had put into play and this is what the Chinese government had said or done, then we would say, oh, there is some difficulty in getting out our people. None of that has happened.
Right.
So we're at the point where we're saying, can the government please inform us of the plans that they have, or the plans they've put in place to ensure that the citizens of Kenya who are in China can be brought home. That's it.
Yes.
Exactly.
And when it comes to governance, I think there's more to just facts and figures and measures being taken. There is a way that you can deal with your citizenry that will make them feel like they belong somewhere. You know, when you're outside this country, the biggest feeling that you can have is a detachment. And the best thing that your government can do for you, and which I think Sarah Serem did by being very open and showing that she's been trying but she cannot, is that you do something that will show your people that we've got you. You understand? Even if you feel like it's not necessary or it's going to jeopardize some diplomatic, friendships and ties, just do something that makes your people feel that we have you. We are your government. I am your president. If it's the president doing it, that makes them feel that they belong somewhere and they're cared for.
Well, of course, and then you have to ask yourself then who over whom, citizen over, diplomacy in this case. Yes, for sure. People then need to be taken care of. And of course, they need to at least be seen to be the priority.
At least we were talking about optics earlier on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes a long way, by the way.
It definitely goes a long way. Of course, today, at some point, when it comes to real estate, home and away, one of the issues, of course, is why rich pension schemes are struggling to sell prime assets. Of course, it comes out that there's no money. The floats that initially people would have to buy these prime properties doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So it's clear that properties are sitting there and nobody really knows how they're going to get rid of them.
Yeah.
We have to sell in a manner that members get value by ensuring we always sell at a profit so as to benefit pension, according to Ms. Mulwa, who is, of course, the head of RBA. She says two properties that was selling to boost investment returns, including in different areas. We advertise and advertise till we find a buyer. This could be subdivided and sold. We're still thinking about property as some of theirs that can be too old, that needs to be redeveloped. According to the Association of Retirement Benefit Schemes Chairman Simon Yakundi, the attachment to property by members has curtailed the scheme's power to sell at good prices when the market was ripe. Of course, we're seeing now that the market is not so ripe. Slim pickings and market dips. The market dip hits low-end developers, and low-end developers are looking to maybe make a profit at this time, whereby the high-end schemes are not working out.
Right. And, this is not a Kenya issue. It's an economy issue, because a few years ago, they were doing quite well. Even lawyers were celebrating, because every time they would be in charge of this, every time a unit is sold, they get their cut.
Yes.
Right now, those deals are not lucrative at all, even for lawyers. So it's not going well for anyone who's in the real estate business, and it boils down to how the economy is doing. So it's seemingly a bad investment. Maybe it will pick up if things change in the country, but for now, clearly, it's not good.
Yep. All right. So, of course, been looking at other things that are taking place in the papers today, and even stepping over. The Uganda Speaker has summoned the First Lady. Uganda's parliamentary speaker has issued a fresh summons for First Lady Janet Museveni, who is the education minister, following a row over the introduction of a new curriculum. Of course, in Kenya, there is a new curriculum, and of course, there have been outcry over the last few days that, we're not really sure which way we're going with this thing. Teachers are not well trained, others are. In Uganda, Mrs. Museveni failed to appear before Parliament on Tuesday following a summons issued last week by Speaker Rebecca Kadanga. She sent her apology through a colleague who serves in the Ministry of State for Primary Education and asked to appear before the lawmakers today. Of course, the Speaker issued a fresh summons and said the First Lady has one last chance
to show up.
I don't know what the or else would be in this case, seeing as you're talking to the wife
First
of the
Lady.
President. Uganda's MPs accuse the Ministry of implementing a new curriculum for lower secondary education, despite Parliament ordering for its suspension. The lawmakers were concerned about the scarcity of textbooks and the lack of training for teachers in the new curriculum.
And that's the problem with such appointments. That's why it is looked frowned upon, because now when this individual does not deliver, it literally rests on their head whether they decide to deliver or not. And in case they are not delivering, then what do you do? Because they have powers, a weight behind them. Yeah.
True, there is that detail, but remember, they're not being called in as the first lady. They're being asked to come in as a minister. But you're right, everyone knows whose wife they are.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, an opportunity lost here. If indeed she is eventually going to go there, but couldn't because of extenuating circumstances, we will see. But if you just leap across the border and go to Rwanda, where the president has been giving his ministers a proper dressing down on issues of morality, of issues of ethics, and people losing jobs because of such things. Now, you would argue and say that, okay, which system do we think serves the people best? Because you're going to then ask, should this lady, should the president's wife have been given this job? And you may find she's just as qualified as the next person. It's not as though she couldn't particularly hold that job. The problem is not her being someone. The problem isn't even the education system. The problem is understanding it. When the person in charge is called, they ask you to come and explain something that they don't understand.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
So,
by the way,
yes.
And then the shame of being exposed as not being as knowledgeable to handle that docket as you should be.
May arise, but an opportunity is lost if you actually don't go and explain it. Then people will impute all manner of reasons as to why you didn't go. True or not. You see, again, the optics now come into being. So
again,
an opportunity lost, because if she goes, an opportunity taken advantage of, it will be explained, and she'll say, yes, the minister came, explained. If they don't go, then all the other reasons will come into play. But this is still an unfolding story. Why don't we wait and see?
Hopefully she will show up and, clear the air and perhaps give a nice blueprint of what her plans are for the Ministry of
Sometimes
Education.
it is actually better to delay. Yes.
And plan.
And actually go there when you are now ready to respond to the questions that you have. So, again, there's that little issue of it being a strategy. Delay until you know exactly what you need to present, and when you go there, you're ready to actually make a presentation. Yes.
This is true.
Right, coming to the top of the hour, right here in the Situation Room, we are discussing, of course, what's happening around the world and right here in Kenya. My name is Ndoko. In the studio this morning was Siti Muga and Trix Ngado from the Morning Express on KTN, looking at what is going on in the world. We're going to take